Under Reconstruction, the novelist Mori Ogai wrote, "The rain had stopped in Japan when Councillor Watanabe disembarked from the tram in front of Kobe's playhouse. Avoiding puddles on the silt-paved streets, he hurriedly moved toward Kobe's district, where the Ministry of Communications office was located. Walking along the canal's edge, he recalled that somewhere in this area was a restaurant whose signboard he had once seen at a corner. The streets were quiet in the evening. Soon, he passed by some people dressed in Western attire, talking animatedly, likely having left their offices. Then, a girl wearing a traditional kimono with a shawl draped over her shoulder hurriedly passed by him. Narrowly avoiding a collision, Watanabe thought she might be an employee at a nearby tea house. As he continued, a rickshaw with an open cover passed behind him. Finally, he spotted a small signboard that read, in Western style, Sewakin Hotel. The front of the building, situated along the canal, was surrounded by temporary wooden and bamboo structures, as if construction work was ongoing. The entrance opened into a narrow alley. Outside, two slanted staircases formed an inverted triangle, with glass doors at their top. After a moment's hesitation, Watanabe entered through the left door marked for entry. Inside was a long, deserted corridor. Near the door, there was a pile of cloth for cleaning shoes and a Western-style doormat. Watanabe's shoes were muddy, so he made use of both facilities. It seemed customary in this restaurant to enter with shoes on, following Western tradition. The corridor showed no signs of life, but the distant sounds of hammers and wood-cutting echoed. Watanabe thought the building was under construction. He paused for a moment, but when no one came to greet him, he walked to the end of the corridor. There, he stopped, unsure of which way to turn. Suddenly, he noticed a man crouched near the wall, holding a handkerchief and doing something. Watanabe approached him and said, "I booked a table by phone yesterday." The man immediately turned to him and said, "Yes, sir, for two. It's on the second floor. Please follow me." Watanabe followed the waiter up the stairs, wondering how quickly the waiter had recognized him. Perhaps due to the construction, few customers came here. The sound of hammers grew louder on the stairs. "It's quite noisy here," Watanabe said to the waiter. "No, sir, the workers will leave by 5, and you won't be disturbed during dinner," the waiter assured him. Upon reaching the second floor, the waiter opened a door to the left. It was a large room with a window offering a clear view of the canal. The room seemed too big for 2 people. There were 3 round tables, several chairs, a large sofa, and under the window, a pot with a 3-foot-tall vine, next to which stood a dwarf plant adorned with grapes. The waiter opened another door and said, "Sir, this is your dining room." Watanabe entered a small, beautifully decorated room with a table in the center covered with 2 tablecloths, and in the middle, a basket of azalea flowers was arranged. Satisfied, Watanabe returned to the larger room. The waiter left, and he was alone. Suddenly, the construction noises stopped. He looked at his watch. It was exactly 5 o'clock. There was still half an hour until his scheduled meeting. He took a cigar from a box on the table, cut its tip, and lit it. Strangely, he was completely unconcerned about this meeting. He didn't care whose face would be behind the flower basket. While smoking the cigar, he went to the window and opened it. Below, the canal water was still, and across it was a row of wooden houses, as if built for secret meetings. A woman with a child tied to her chest was strolling. No one else was in sight. In the distance, a red brick building, a maritime museum, caught his attention. Watanabe sat on the sofa and began surveying the room. Some paintings hung on the walls, seemingly for decoration, but they looked faded and sickly. One depicted a berry tree with birds singing at night. Another showed a world of butterflies, and a third featured a large eagle. These small Chinese or Japanese-style paintings looked odd on the high walls. Above the door was a framed Buddha. For a while, he smoked the cigar, enjoying the sense of his own health. Suddenly, sounds came from the corridor, and the door opened. It was her. She wore a pearl-studded tenko hat, a winter coat, and beneath it, a white embroidered blouse and a winter skirt, holding a small umbrella in her right hand. Watanabe suppressed a smile, tossed the cigar into the ashtray, and stood up. The German woman removed her veil, glanced at the waiter standing at the door, then turned her gaze to Watanabe. Her brown eyes were deep and large, the same eyes he used to lose himself in years ago in Berlin. But now, he had forgotten the shadows of those days. "I'm sorry for making you wait," she said quickly in German. She shifted the umbrella to her left hand and extended her gloved right fingers with difficulty. Watanabe politely took her hand, thinking it was all for the waiter's sake. "Let me know when the food is ready," he told the waiter. The waiter bowed and left. "It's great to see you," he said in German. The woman casually tossed the umbrella onto a chair and sat on the sofa with a tired sigh. Resting her elbows on the table, she looked at Watanabe. He pulled a chair and sat down, saying, "It's very quiet here, isn't it?" Watanabe replied, "This place is under reconstruction. When I arrived, there was dreadful noise." "Oh, that explains the silence. This place gives a strange sense of unease. I'm not a calm-natured woman. When did you come to Japan?" "The day before yesterday. I saw you yesterday on Ginza Street." "And why are you here?" "You know, I've been in Vladivostok since last year. It seems you're singing at a hotel or someplace like that there." "Yes, of course. I'm not alone, with some company." "Not with a company, but not alone either." "I'm with a man. You know him." She hesitated for a moment. "I'm with Kosinski." Watanabe laughed and said, "So, they must call you Kosinski now." She laughed and said, "Don't be foolish. I sing, and Kosinski accompanies me, that's all." "Is he with you in Tokyo?" "Yes, we're staying at the Sewakin Hotel. But he lets you come out alone." "My dear friend, I only keep him for singing," she laughed. Watanabe thought that if he accompanies her on the piano, he might accompany her in other matters too. "I told him I saw you in Ginza," she said. "He's very eager to meet you." "I'd rather deprive myself of that pleasure," Watanabe said, smiling. "Don't worry, he's not short of money, but if he stays here too long, he might soon become needy." Watanabe said mockingly, "Where are you going next?" "America. Everyone says Japan is disappointing. It's hard to find work here." "Absolutely right. America is the best place after Russia. Japan is still backward, under construction." She laughed. "God, if you're not careful, I'll go to America and say a Japanese officer admitted his country is backward." "Yes, I'm a government officer, and quite honorable too, aren't I?" "Surprisingly, tonight is an exception." She removed her gloves and extended her beautiful white hand to Watanabe. He held it firmly, but was surprised by its coldness. She looked at him, her brown eyes growing deeper. "Would you like me to kiss you?" she asked impulsively. A look of disgust flashed across Watanabe's face. "We're in Japan," he said softly. At that moment, the door opened without a knock, and the waiter appeared. "Sir, dinner is served." "We're in Japan," Watanabe repeated. He stood and led the woman to the small room. The waiter turned on the overhead lights. The woman sat across from Watanabe and surveyed the room. "They gave us a separate room," she laughed. "How romantic. It's just a coincidence," Watanabe said calmly. 3 waiters were busy serving. One poured sherry, another offered melon slices, and the third made a racket bringing several items. "These waiters are quite noisy," Watanabe said. "Yes, and clumsy too," the woman said while eating the melon. "They're the same at my hotel. I hope you and Kosinski don't get annoyed when they barge in without knocking." "You're misunderstanding," she laughed. "Anyway, the melon is good. In America, you'll get heaps of food every morning." The conversation continued lightly. The waiters brought fruit salad and champagne. "Don't you feel jealous, even a little?" the woman suddenly asked. She was remembering those days in Berlin when they would sit face to face in small restaurants after the theater, sometimes arguing, but always making up in the end. She tried to give a playful tone, but her voice carried seriousness and embarrassment. Watanabe raised a champagne glass above the flowers and said, "To Kosinski's health." The woman silently raised her glass, a frozen smile on her face. By 8 o'clock that night, a black car was slowly moving along the seaside road. with lights shimmering on the sea's waves. On the back seat sat a woman, her face covered with a veil.